Hi everyone. Welcome to another quarterly event that we're running. So this is GA Forward Mark 7 almost. Well, we've done this will be the fifth GA Forward one, and then we've done GTM Forward and Privacy for Marketers. So this one is focused on both learning GA4 and also backing up your GA3 data, given the 1st of July deadline, which is only about 3 weeks away. Just a quick bit about ourselves. So we're MeasureMinds. We're an analytics agency based near Bristol. That's like the largest tech hub just outside of London. And we do a lot of Google Analytics, GTM, used to do Google Optimize, and as well as OneTrust and a cookie bot setups and implementation. So a lot of kind of Google Stack configurations and setups. And we've also got 5 kind of apps, and we got a finalist in the UK Growth Awards for our sort of consent mode monitor app. So I've got Will, Razel, and other team members kind of working behind the scenes kind of on this event. So if you've got any questions, if you send them through to either hello @ or send a message to Will via Zoom. For today, so I'm doing the first talk on both the what was good about GA3 and also the future of GA4 and some of my predictions. We've then got Andre, who's going to talk about his kind of a simple sort of a backup solution for GA3. Julie's talking about GA4 hidden gems, so kind of on the insight side. Barbara's talking about sort of Facebook CAPI and GTM server side. Amit is from Analytics Canvas, is talking about how to back up your UA data and to BigQuery. So I'm really looking forward to that talk. So Analytics Canvas are kindly sponsoring this event, and they've got a voucher code to get a discount on your backup. So please check out their tool and listen to Amit's talk. And also, I'm interested to see like tips and tricks on backups and mistakes to avoid when doing these backups. And then Freddie is covering GA4 advanced kind of data warehousing and pathing. Alan is talking about GA4 audits, and Savash is then talking about another like BigQuery kind of backup kind of option and his experience of kind of going through that process. For the portal, Will, if you could just put the link to that in chat. So it's gaforward.com. That has the list of speakers, and also later we'll add the links to the feedback form pages, which if you fill in the feedback form, you can get access to the slides on the thank you page of the feedback form. Those feedback links I'll also just put into chat here. And the reason we ask you to fill in the feedback forms is it allows speakers to improve their talks, and also we're running a GTMGrader competition this time around. So if you want to try uploading your GTM container to GTMGrader.ai, and the best account will get £100. And then we'll also just give away £50 to the 2 runners up. If you check out our blog, you can see who were the past winners, and you can kind of submit to a leaderboard. Also, please follow us on YouTube and sign up to our newsletter if you haven't already. There's also a general kind of speaker survey at the end where you can pick your favorite talk. So next up, it's me kind of going first. So my talk is about a GA3 past and a GA4 future. Yeah, Will, if you could just grab those Zoom links and just put HTTPS protocol in front of them for the feedback links. Just a quick quiz, so just use the Zoom chat for this. And I'm curious to see if we've got kind of any people that have been around for a while that remember this. So, what was the name of GA1? The original name. So if you've been around for as long as I have, you probably know. Yeah, well done, Alina and Anne. Yeah, Urchin, that was it. Yeah, and then follow-up question, when was it created? Do you remember the date? The year? a long time ago. So it was actually 1997 was when Urchin Analytics was first created. That's like 27 years ago. That's crazy. Uh, Now, obviously, Google bought it a couple of years later, 19 years ago. So Urchin, as we know it, i.e. Google Analytics 1, actually first started 19 years ago. That's absolutely crazy. And this is the kind of V1 interface. But I just want to give you the reason I mentioned that is just so you realize just kind of how long Google's been growing the tool and where it kind of first started. So, oops, I'm going to skip through that. Myself, I'm been using Google Analytics and Urchin and GA3, GA4, the whole shaboodle for the last kind of 20 years or so. And I used to answer lots of questions on the Google Analytics forum and on Google Plus when there was Google Plus. I'm just going to skip through that. And here's some of our kind of clients. So fun fact about me, I'm a terrible perfectionist. I like things always kind of in the same place and know where to find stuff, and like Google Analytics accounts set up perfectly and everything working in an ideal way. And it's quite common with analysts to be perfectionists. So the GA1, and we're going to cover GA1 to GA4, what makes GA3 good, or what I thought was good about GA3, features, adoption, what's new in GA4, the features, maybe missing features or feature parity, what's next for GA4, aka GA5, predictions, is Google going to move the deadline of 1st of July? We'll cover that one here. Why you need to back up your GA3 data, benefits of backup, and then types of backup. So a quick bit of history about GA3. So Urchin, as we just mentioned there, is kind of been around for like almost 20 years. Google bought it, and as with Google Search, they gave out a free product and opened it up to everyone, which basically just it was a massive gamble. It worked because of the feature adoption and great kind of usage and from that. Fun fact number 2, Urchin, when it was first released for free by Google, actually had a lottery system because it was so popular. So it's a bit like when Facebook actually first started. You need to be invited by a friend to get access to Facebook. Same sort of thing. Obviously nowadays it's just create an account and you get instant access, but you sort of take it for granted. But when it was first created, there was so much demand that they had to kind of control and restrict that demand. Then so a few years later, GA2, Analytics.JavaScript, or there was also Doubleclick.JavaScript, which was a kind of flavor of that, launched. Then Premium, GA360, then the G tag. There's kind of a rebranding exercise that Google went through, and then we've got GA4 down here. So, GA4 in essence is kind of about 3.5 years old-ish, but be it the first year was early beta. Obviously, then we got GA3 end of life last July in terms of data collection, and then the GA3 interface and API ending in 3 weeks' time. And also on GA360 accounts, obviously, data processing is going to stop on those accounts as well, which also on 360 raises an interesting question, which would be what happens on the last day, i.e. the last day of June. As in, there could be a lag on that last day. I'm not sure if Google's going to give a little bit of grace period for 360 accounts for maybe 48 hours before they delete everything. But we'll see. You can see here on that Urchin Analytics software, Google sort of spent about $30 million on that, and this was in 2005, so probably worth a lot more in money kind of nowadays. So what made GA3 so good, and why was it adoption so high? Number of reasons. So obviously it's spent money on that acquisition. It hasn't kind of built it from scratch. So in the same way that advertisers need to get an ROI on their ads, Google needed to get an ROI on that 30 million acquisition. It had to prove that that money was well spent. Also, the tool had to be good to get adoption. It had to be useful. People continue to use it. It needed stickiness and retention, because there have been other tools that were bought and turned free, like Yahoo Analytics being an example, that got killed off. They died, didn't get that market adoption and coverage. And there was a very old Microsoft kind of tool which also kind of got bought and died. And even now, looking at Baidu Analytics on Built With, that one is declining rather than growing. So it had to be good to be used. And also, there wasn't a blended focus. There wasn't apps and web. It was just web, targeting on a main audience of marketers, and just really has some great features out of the box: cross-domain tracking, flexible customizations, even custom dimensions and custom metrics were around in 2005, which is really advanced for tools of that age. Really simple user interface, fast to get insights, which is really important for me. It's like, show me the hidden gems, the really kind of juicy kind of data that you can take action on. And it was relatively easy for new users to pick it up, but there were some advanced features in there as well. So I'll give you a quick example. In GA4, if you search for UTM source, you find 3 fields, which is sometimes confusing for a new user, whereas in GA3, like Universal Analytics, there was only 1 UTM source. So some things in there. And also you could like turn off e-commerce if you weren't on an e-commerce site. So there was ways of simplifying the interface or simplifying the fields to make it slightly easier for those beginner users. A little bit like there used to be a very basic version of Google Ads for kind of beginner users. So that helped with adoption to kind of the ability to simplify. And you can achieve a similar sort of thing now on using Looker Studio on top of GA4 to get a very simplistic interface. And the other key thing which that Google had then was they listened to user feedback and had a fantastic advocacy team. So Avanash back in the day, Nick Malnowski and Justin Catroni, and there was even an analytics TV channel which had some really good information in terms of learning analytics. And I used to watch those channels. And I wish they'd kind of resume those or restore them. So a lot of reasons why it grew so quickly and did so well. So here's some of my favorite features that I just wanted to give a shout out or mention to. This is in GA3. The ability to quickly set up reports. So shared assets for dashboards, plug in 20, let's say 5 real-time dashboards, 15 standard dashboards, and also plug in some custom reports with tabs. One-click import, great, and even a kind of shared library to import from as well. So building out a dashboard sort of list was rapid, like 1 click. The ability to just fix some of the inbound data, so lower casing, for example, like in the tool, which sounds like a small thing, but actually the declustering of like source and medium and URLs actually was a real pain, because you caused, you're trying to do analysis and you can't do a funnel flow report or even helpful, simple but helpful features. A key one for me, and I actually did a talk on top 10 reports to save money or make money a little while ago, and that was based just on the URL reports, because GA3 used to allow you to build a filter, a sort, and a report based only on the URL. So it meant if you just change the account ID in the URL, you can actually jump to a pre-built report, which is such a useful feature. And I wish they'd bring it back in GA4. The same also applied when someone filled in a contact form. We used to link directly to the User Explorer report for that user using the client ID, and it then showed all the individual pages that person went through as they traversed through the site as a link from an inbound lead form. Again, I wish they'd bring that feature back. Obviously, with GA4 being Ajax-based for its interface, it doesn't support URL-based requests, which is annoying. So very helpful feature, and that was one of my favorites. Obviously, the ability to filter profiles to show, let's say, only organic, only PPC, only affiliates for a profile view. And another secret kind of feature, I'm curious to know if people were aware of this one in GA3, was one called weighted bounce rate, which where you could sort via best or worst bounce rate, accounting for volume of entrances. So it kind of removed that problem of 100% jumping to the top or 0% jumping to the top, and quite a quick way of seeing good or bad on landing pages. And the other one for me, which was quite helpful, was sort by absolute change. So you could actually see, okay, this 4-week period versus last 4-week period, what's actually gone up and by a difference. So I would love if they added those two features back in, and then obviously annotations for recording any analysis and maybe email campaigns or offline campaigns that were sent out, as well as campaign activity. I'm curious to know what features you're missing in GA4, or if I've missed any other sort of favorites. There are some others in that list. These didn't hit my favorite list, but they're definitely ones I would say I wish they would add. So this is kind of more in the list of feature parity. So obviously more than 14 months worth of data would be nice. I understand it's costing Google to host this data, and also there's kind of European laws regarding kind of storing it for sort of more than like a year and a half, etc. So I can understand why that's in place, but it's just so good to be able to do like a 5-year look back and compare year on year, etc. Promo view, promo vet clicks, I wish they just set it to session level, not event level, which is how GA3 worked. Brand versus non-brand, missing in channel groupings. Again, I don't know why that one's not in there. Non-interactive events, which that one we use a workaround by just sending those into a separate GA4 profile, like a dev profile. So we still record them, just kind of sandbox them or silo them in a different place. Exclude parameters, removing the word retracted, which is a bit pointless saying like Facebook retracted. It's just better just to cluster the landing page. Session level custom dimensions, more content groups. I know obviously there's reduced from 5 down to 1, but there are 3 kind of content group type fields. So actually officially it's kind of 3 rather than 5 there, but the field called content group is there's only 1 of those natively. Ability to delete the purchase goal, which is not necessary for non-e-commerce sites. And then some smart audiences, smart conversions, and transaction probability. Some of these probability and predictive analytics features do exist in GA4, like predictive revenue and likelihood to purchase. So, and I wish there's more of those predictive analytics features kind of coming soon, hopefully. And then obviously not needing to use sub-properties like G360 for data filtering would be nice. And then more default reports out of the box, real-time filtering on ability to filter more than 2 dimensions, i.e. if you use a search box in a standard report, it searches both fields. You can't individually say, okay, sort via CPC and filter for Google as separate filters, which actually was quite useful for advanced users like myself. Obviously, the ability to change the date on a custom report or Explorer report would be nice. I know you can now set that to a rolling 7 days or rolling 30 days, which is improvement. And then obviously having more than 1 editor on a dashboard, or obviously Explorer reports, you have to use either a global analytics at email for the editor, or initial them as who's the actual editor, as there's can only be 1 editor at the moment. So some improvements in terms of feature parity I would like to see. These are small ones. On the plus side, there are some new features in GA4 which I think are really good, especially for the beginner users here. So having a 1-click to enable enhanced events or auto events. So things like scroll tracking, PDF, outbound links, form interactions, video, etc., makes engagement rate, or in effect inverse bounce rate, much more accurate. If you've been using GTM, then obviously you've got most of these features probably enabled, but for the average user, that small business, they don't know how to kind of turn on these fields or know how to enable them. So the simplicity of activating all these fields actually is quite a nice win and a big improvement. And also, this is my list of stuff that I like about GA4, or the new stuff that's in it. So actually, it's quite helpful having the page path without any query parameters. It's not named very clearly, like, because what's like with screen class, basically it just means the path name ignoring any parameters, because normally if you're looking at web data, there's not going to be any screen class. So a bit of a crazy name there. It would just be better to call it page path without parameters, but that's quite helpful having that field in there. And grouping via that actually is really useful, and it gets around any problems with a Facebook click ID or Microsoft click ID, or any kind of a landing page parameters or other parameters that might have accidentally got captured. Blended sessionization is great. Obviously in GA3 we had user ID reports and cookie-based reports in completely separate silos. That's good. And obviously having 3 levels of sessionization, so user ID, observed, and device-based. It would be nice if there was an extra option on there to split out enhanced conversions, i.e. email hashes sessionization from user ID sessionization. So in effect, 4 tiers of sessionization. Unfortunately, though, GA4 have kind of bundled user ID and email hash into the same sessionization group, which is not ideal when you're sending both an email hash and a user ID, but hopefully they can potentially improve that, or you can send both user ID and the email hash in the same hit, and that works. Email hashing is obviously where things are going, with Apple trying to restrict cookies to 7 days or less. There's a need to identify user, track them sort of across a site, or tie them to a kind of a signed-in user profile, in the same way that you're signed in on Facebook and you're joined or grouped on there. It's kind of like Google's just trying to encourage everyone to be signed in and then track as though it's kind of like almost like a Facebook signed in network. And normally with an opt-in to be signed in and to be tracked. Consent mode modeling, obviously if Apple tried to block, let's say, I've seen in some cases up to like 40% of hits being sent, or 40% denied in certain industries, then that can cause a massive drop in CPAs and conversions. So having the ability to recount that data and upscale the missing 40% back up to 100% is a real benefit of GA4, and something that really should be turned on if you're or activated if you're not already using kind of modeling. I'm hoping also at some point that both Bing's got an early version of modeling, and Facebook hopefully will introduce something at some point soon, just so that all tools model, just so that there's not it's not just GA4 kind of doing it. Obviously native data-driven conversions, last click wins being a very kind of old, kind of slightly outdated model, overweighted brand, overrated the closing channel. So evenly or distributing between kind of key conversion points using kind of machine learning to decide on which are the most important conversions kind of makes a lot of sense. And especially for a marketing strategy, you don't want to put all your eggs on the last touch point. It makes sense to widen the net and account for, let's say, review sites for affiliates in the middle of the funnel, display at the start of the funnel, etc. So makes a lot of sense, and a big improvement in terms of the output for analysis on that. Anomaly detection is nice, so if there's a big spike up or spike down, you can actually see that in Explorer reports, or you can get sent an email if there's an anomaly. And that's also helpful if there's either an outage or like a Black Friday kind of sales peak. So that's a nice feature. Predictive revenue obviously in there for e-commerce. Again, awesome one to see. I would love to see a predictive lifetime customer value and more or better integrations with like Shopify and WooCommerce, etc. And you might have heard that Google's put an offer in for HubSpot. I kind of wish that Google would also buy Shopify at the same time, just to get that first party to first party kind of data connection going. We've also got more default channel groupings have been widened out to a few more categories. And also it's one click to import audiences into Google Ads rather than individually doing it 20 times. And obviously, unsurprisingly, anonymized IP is removed, and there's better PII protection. And obviously, cookies are centralized in terms of your settings for both Search 360 and GA4. The other big ones on there as well are obviously the free BigQuery integration. You used to need to pay somewhere between either $75,000 and $150,000 to get that integration. That's now free, which is super awesome. And at least it gives you the ability to back up your GA4 data if you need data beyond 14 months. Obviously, the Salesforce integration, which is now free, is awesome. Search 360 integration, Firebase integration for apps like native, debug view, which is a nice kind of little feature for implementations, editing left navigation default reports. URL-based goals is in there. I generally suggest not using URL-based goals. It's much better to use GTM to send an event in, because that can then be sent to other networks, not just Google. But if you're only using a GA4 account and you're not able to use GTM, then it's helpful as a kind of backup option. And also, as I mentioned, those enhanced events are good. Although I wish they would improve some of the accuracy of form start and form submitted, where it sometimes does false positives if a tracking pixel is using a post request, for example, or a site search field gets counted as a form. So there's no ways currently to do CSS excludes on those form events. I wish they would add that, but you can get around that by just using GTM to do a form submit and a form start instead, and then more custom dimensions. So there's some good ones in here. Obviously, that BigQuery one's a nice one that used to be a paid feature. And there's one other feature, though, in the list that I missed off. So what's one of my other favorite features of GA4 that I've not included? Feel free to put a guess into chat. It's probably not what you're expecting. Comparisons. I didn't think about that one, but good guess. Explorations is kind of the same as custom reports, so it's not really a new feature. A debug view is new. Building an audience, it's probably potentially slightly easier building an audience, as in the interface for that. It's not. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. Okay, I'll let you know what it is. Yeah, the new feature is cardinality. Yes, that's right. A new feature has been added to GA4 called cardinality. So didn't exist in GA3. And if you add a user ID as a custom definition, or even a timestamp, and have lots of different levels of entropy, basically your data is going to be have little yellow warnings everywhere, and it's going to be kind of clustered in a slightly inaccurate or less accurate way. You may see kind of other in some of your reports. Thanks, Google. The only good thing about that one is obviously you can export to BigQuery to bypass cardinality, and that means you obviously can store it longer than 14 months. So what do I think is coming next for GA4? So I don't have access to the roadmap, so this is kind of a guess, or an educated guess. Hopefully a better user interface, maybe with thousands of default reports. That would be nice. Obviously, as part of the setup flow, you can tick the 4 options for the 4 different types of standard report in the left navigation. But it would be nice to just replicate the GA3 interface, having one of those template reports saying GA3 mode as a set of library reports. I don't know why they don't do that. It would be so easy to do. Shared assets, and I'm not talking like shared folders for GA360 users, which is not particularly helpful because you can't share it outside of a property. I'm talking about actually exporting a Explorer report to another external profile and importing it, aka same as shared assets. Integrations with other Google tools, so Google My Business would be nice. YouTube integration, again, it's Google to Google. I don't know why some of these integrations don't exist. Merchant Center, that's existed for ages as a feed of product IDs and attributes about those products, and potentially there could be a cost of how much you pay to purchase the product. So you buy it for 50 euros and sell it for 100 euros. It's really helpful to have that cost of goods sold file for 50 euros for the SKU of that product to work out the profit of 50 euros that you've made on it, because that then opens up the ability to bid based off ROI rather than return on ad spend. There are workarounds for that to repurpose the revenue field to show profit, but it'd just be nice if that was native, because ultimately e-commerce sites want to bid based off profit, not on revenue, especially for competitive margin products. CRM integrations, obviously Google have made the offer for HubSpot. That'd be nice to get qualified leads and lead value into GA4 and Google Ads, like in a simple integration. And then more integrations with WooCommerce, Drupal, Shopify, etc. would be awesome. Obviously, there's this shift now to server-side and kind of Google kind of data manager. Those direct integrations can make a lot of sense. Obviously, it's server to server. It can't be blocked by an ad blocker, and so it's kind of 100% accurate potentially. Also, the Facebook and Bing cost data integrations. The Facebook one got announced. I think it got announced and then rolled back, and then I'm not sure it's been fully rolled forward on that one. But again, good to see that cost data pulled in natively into the GA4 tool, and then can be exposed in kind of Looker Studio from there, rather than using third-party connections to connect to Looker Studio. So that's nice. And more of those would be good. Same with the LinkedIn cost data import. I expect that there's going to be more data quality reports surfacing, like the GTM tag diagnostic feature that rolled out last month. The reason I expect that is in order for Gemini and ChatGPT equivalents to be able to provide good insight, they need good data. So for instance, if you upload a CSV report out of GA4 into ChatGPT, you can query it and ask it questions about that data, and it even does the visualizations in the tool, which is really cool. So Gemini potentially has the ability to do that in a much more better and dynamic way. You don't even need to upload the CSV. It's just a one-to-one Google connection. And that applies not just for data analysis, also for building a tag-in plan and an implementation plan, which ChatGPT can build in, you know, a matter of kind of seconds rather than days. So I'm expecting things to move in that direction. The consent API for Chrome, I've not heard much about that recently. I think partly because IAB are sort of blocking Google from kind of progressing with that, because it's not great for small advertisers. But at some point, there's going to be a need to get rid of cookie banners and have a browser-based control in terms of what data is shared, and then avoid the need to have like 200 different cookie banners and standardize just to one interface per kind of browser. Obviously, it'd be nice to get a new version of Optimizer would be awesome. I haven't heard anything, but I'm hopeful there will be one. And then I've just put a controversial one on that list. Obviously, Google's kind of shifting to kind of make more money mode, and they've kind of reduced the size of their some of the team members on the analytics team, so it wouldn't surprise me that at some point they either encourage advertisers to spend a minimum amount on Google Ads to keep GA4 for free, or something equivalent to that. It would be a logical kind of move. And just on the question about, is Google going to move the deadline of 1st of July? Well, it really comes down to kind of dollar signs. And again, in chat, if you want to kind of put a wild guess as to how much it would cost Google to miss that deadline, I can pretty much guarantee you'll be wrong in terms of the number. It's a big number. Yeah, yeah. Well, 0% chance of it moving, and the reason why is 0% chance of it moving is because it would cost Google about $31.8 billion if they missed that deadline, i.e. 10% of global revenue on their yearly kind of turnover of 3.8 billion. And that's partly because they've got a truckload of IP addresses stored in the US. There's absolutely no chance that they're going to move the deadline. It's not going to be like Google Chrome third-party cookies where it gets bumped by another 3 months. Everything's going to get binned in 3 weeks' time on 1st of July. So you've got to back up if you want to access that data, unless you've got a spare, 31.8 billion in the bank. The other question which we were asked is there going to be an archive button? So when Google killed off Google Plus, they introduced an archive button. It's too late in the day now. If they were going to have introduced it, they would have added it. And the same with free access to the BigQuery data or BigQuery connector for GA3. We were hoping that was going to get rolled out for free. It's just not happened. So you're restricted to be using the web interface or the reporting API to pull off that data instead. There's no access to that granular kind of data from GA3 unless you've got GA360 on GA3. So why would you want to back up? Got 2 minutes left. The reason for that, so benchmarking, let's say your university site with 1 year kind of peaks or seasonality once per year, you need to see how like a September performs versus a September. Also GA4, because it's 14 months, not 15 months, you don't get your quarter on quarter. So you actually need to store that data in order to compare GA3 versus GA4 for quarter on quarter. Also, just a couple of other notes on there. Some people forget that actually because GA3 has been running so long, it's actually got some data from keyword not provided, as in the raw keyword people used to search for still in there. So actually there's some kind of nice hidden data that's also worth exporting. The same with the ISP name and ISP domain, which stopped collecting, but still historically you can see. And then the other options for backing up, it may be you want to use this opportunity to also migrate tools, and some tools have the ability to digest or import some historic data. So Snowplow are obviously doing a talk for us later today, and they're going to demo what their tool can do. So at least it's not completely kind of empty out of the box. And also just other couple of notes, not just the data you should export. Make sure you export your annotations, your GA3 settings. So Ben Kuhn's tool is very good for that. His free Google Sheet. Changelog is also worth exporting, so you can see what was changed on the account over a long time, especially if you're an agency. And also, if you haven't run the setup assistant for audience import or goals, you're going to lose the chance to run that as well, although most people probably have run that already. And in terms of the types of backup, it really depends on what type of business you are. If it's a small business, you could start with the free Google Sheet. But the problem with that is it doesn't handle sampling very well, so it doesn't do a particularly good export. So Andre, who's talking now, is going to talk about his solution for the kind of Google Sheet Plus. That's more for the sort of small and medium-sized advertisers. Ahmad, who's talking at the end of the day, is going to talk about what his experience of exporting to BigQuery, and Meet is also going to cover how Analytics Canvas can help you kind of back up. And Snowplow are also going to talk about how you can import historic data and also start with a clean slate. So in summary, it's very difficult to build an analytics tool. It can take 10 years, not 2 years. So that's why Google Analytics 4 has had some of the problems it has. And you forget that it's got to deal with a level of crazy scale. GA2 and GA3, when they first started, didn't have the level of usage that GA4 has started with. So it's not easy working on a new jumbo jet in mid-flight that's got to kind of take a lot of kind of load. But it is getting better, and hopefully the interface will improve. and advertisers still need to justify spend. So GA4 is not going away anytime soon, and Google's continuing to invest in it. But yeah, GA3 is definitely going away and expected to die on the 1st of July. So hence my solution is to pick the right backup option that's right for you. And as I mentioned at the start, it means that you're going to be prepared, and you're not going to run out of data, and you'll be able to make analysis decisions, and be able to at least kind of get a copy of that before it gets kind of binned.